That is an ugly album cover. Like, just real talk, regardless of what I'm about to say about the album's overall quality, I can't front. This album is ugly as butt. Heyo people, and welcome to this review of Enter Shikari's 6th full-length album, Nothing is True and Everything is Possible. Did y'all steal that from Assassin's Creed?
Nothing is true. Everything is permitted.
I mean, I hope not, guys. Ubisoft's got deep pockets, is all I'm saying. So yeah, Enter Shikari. Those of you that have been around on my channel for a bit of a yonk probably remember that back in 2017, their last album, The Spark, ended up topping my Album of the Year list. A lot of y'all felt like that was a weird choice, but people, I'm telling you, like, a lot of y'all slept on The Spark. But man, I just gotta be real with you here. After hearing The Spark, I was both ecstatic at how great it ended up being, but also a little leery, because as much as I loved that album, man, they had just never made anything that good up to that point, and it felt, almost like a fluke. I hate to say it. I mean, that album just kind of came out of the blue. It came out of nowhere, and topping, or even coming close to topping that, was going to be a Herculean task. I knew with their next record, these guys were gonna have to really bring it. They were gonna have to think of something even crazier to do for their next album. So what does Enter Shikari do next? A little bit of everything? This album, whew, it's kinda all over the place. And given that Shikari is already a band that's all over the place, being all over the place is kinda their trademark, that's saying something. It opens with The Great Unknown and Crossing the Rubicon, which are just soaked in synthetic beats and glittering, but still artificial sounding piano work. It creates this sort of electropop on steroids kind of feel. Think 21 Pilots on an entire palette of pixie sticks and you kind of get the idea. Then Dreamer's Hotel comes in and it's got this like super clattery, chunky as fuck bass and some very distorted synth work. It's extremely caustic and abrasive and kind of crummy in an appealing way, but it's like the closest you could ever see this band coming to industrial music. It's a little bit of a jarring tonal shift. And then immediately after that, Farty Waltz? Farty, horn-driven, Modest Mouse adjacent waltz music comes on next. And then Modern Living follows that, and that's basically a millennialized version of Bittersweet Symphony. It's weird, but when you listen to it, you'll know what I'm talking about there. Then Elegy for Extinction comes on, and it's basically a coffee break as provided by the London Symphony Orchestra, and like, you kind of see the album's problem already, don't you? Rue Reynolds, the band's frontman, said in an interview with Kerrang recently that I think one thing about this album that's slightly different is that we set out to make something that encapsulates everything that Shikari have done. This album is more broad, and there's more confidence in the songwriting. Okay, so they wanted to make a broad album. They wanted to make an album that really had a wide range of targets. And you know what? I would say they definitely succeeded. Perhaps a little too much? Like, make no mistake, this album is certainly broad, and my god, do they explore a lot of different themes and soundscapes here. But, like I said, that's kind of its biggest problem. It's a little too broad in places. One of the things that pushed The Spark over the edge, for me personally at least, was how tight and thematic it was. Every single track from that record just ebbed and flowed into each other, and the album had a strong sense of meaning and purposefulness. The record was very deliberate, very controlled. It set out to get its music and messages across and just wrap everything up in the tidiest package possible. There was not a tighter record in 2017 that came out than The Spark. This record, it is not that, but I also feel like I'm talking it down too much. Like, it's still a good record, people. I am still giving this album a recommendation. I'm giving it a strong recommendation, in fact, because at least as a loose collection of songs, at least as just a bunch of music, yeah, for the most part, it still hits really well. The opening tracks, for as weird as they are still epic and genuinely stirring. Tina is a wonderful dose of beepy, blippy electronica that we're kind of used to hearing from these guys. And The King is another wonderful little caustic number that is kind of rough around the edges. Again, it's probably the closest to punk rock I could see Shikari doing. You know, God, they really do slide all over the spectrum, and it's interesting to see how many genres and styles they can tackle. You know, there's just so much to like about their sound. Enter Shikari is a band that's always been very flexible, never been able to slide into one particular theme or definition particularly well. No one can accuse this band of doing the same thing twice, and they certainly haven't done that on this record. And while some people, maybe rightly so, will criticize this band for their overly glossy, overly buzzy, kinda super ramped up production style, like, man, these guys really go hard on that gloss and that super shiny finish production. But you know, the band, it fits them so well. It's such a key part of their sound and their identity at this point. I can't knock them for it. You know, a lot of bands, when they go that hard on the production side of things, when they make things so clean and sparkly like Shikari does, a lot of bands sound like just hot garbage when they do that. But Shikari, I feel like that sense of production brings out the best in them. You know, that is really a style that fits their particular sound very well. So if you have like problems with it, I get that, but at the same time, they're the ones who are so good at it, I can't knock them for it. So like I said up top, the biggest hurdle that this record had to clear, for me at least anyway, is just even attempting to come close to the spark. And while this album has strong moments, a lot of strong moments, very strong moments at that, in pieces the album is very strong, but as a whole, it feels more slapdash. Their vision to create a broad record has left us with an album that feels a little unfocused. I mean, Spark had such a great sense of focus and character. Like, it was out to set an extremely specific mood, and it had a much more definitive mission statement to it. This record, just a collection of songs, isn't it? The cohesion and sense of flow that the Spark had is just not here. And in fact, the various shifts in tone can be a bit jarring and unexpected in places. It might take you a little off guard. You will probably get tonal whiplash listening to this record in places. And again, don't misunderstand me. This is still a really damn good collection of songs, but at the end of the day, that is kind of the best praise I can give it. It's a good collection of tunes. It's not the cohesive and emotionally stirring master blast that the Spark was, but it's still a good collection of tunes. As a collection of tunes, I can give it a lot of props, but, you know, it's just not the Spark. Enter Shikari fans, this definitely comes recommended. And if you're curious, there's still more than enough savory meat on this record to really be able to appreciate it. But it ain't the Spark, man. And you know, maybe that's not even fair. I probably shouldn't even compare it to the Spark, but the Spark was my album of 2017, people. A bit of comparison was just inevitable coming out of me. But you know what? People, perspective here. A step down from great to still really damn good, that's nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, Lord knows we've seen bands take way more drastic steps than that. Nothing is true and everything is possible gets 4 Ubisoft lawsuits out of 5. Seriously, Ubisoft doesn't fuck around, guys. I hope you're alright with that. What did you think? Were you feeling this record? I know my opinions on Enter Shikari are a little contentious, so let me know in the comments how you felt. If you like what you see, feel free to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell while you're at it. In the meantime, though, I'm Crash Thompson, and I'll see you in the next video.
super special thanks to I Love Water and Blam 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 Food.
Another